Boker Tov, Shalom Aleichem, everyone. Welcome to the Aliyah Day. Glad you're with me. I hope you're having a great day, and today is being a day of good news and good fortune for all of you. Today we get to discuss a little bit more the concept of community and personal responsibility to the community, personal value to the community, the Jew as an individual, and the Jewish person as a member of the community. And of course, I say Jewish person, but we could include God-fearers in that as well, because they play an important role as well. All of us in community doing the same things together. So we're going to be talking about that. This came up in our Drosh a couple weeks ago, and then we've talked about it some today, or some this week rather. And this is in response to a commentary brought down by Rabbi Weiss to Parashah Re'eh. It's also kind of a thought process with respect to today's Torah portion from chapter 14, when it talks about the tithes and our responsibility to tithe. Everybody enjoys the synagogue, right? You enjoy the parking lot. You enjoy the bathrooms. You enjoy that there are toilet paper in the bathrooms. There are forks in the Havar hall. That when you come in, the light is on, the air conditioning is working. There's a mikveh, and the pumps of the mikveh work. The pool guy was just there at the mikveh house a minute ago, servicing the pools, making sure that all the chemicals are properly. Everybody enjoys that, right? I mean, you want that, you need that. It's part of your need as a member of the Lapid community. Those of you who are online, can't be here physically, not yet anyway, until you move here. You enjoy the camera views, you enjoy the sights and sounds, the ability to connect with us, the fact that we have electricity and internet. And the reality is, all of that costs money. And so your tithe, your involvement in the community as a tither, not a tipper, but a tither. We want to get the T right, correct? we want to get the T right. It's not a tipper, you're a tither. Don't tip God, tithe. Don't tip, tithe. Right? There you go. That's a motto, right? Don't tip. Don't be a tipper, be a tither. But that's part of being community too. But that's all part of it as well, taking care of the needs of the community. And your willingness to participate. That's why tithing is such an important moral moral factor. It's a fact of character. It's a fact of musar. And it's why it's a part of our conversion program. Are you a tither? If you're not a tither, well, you know, when you accomplish that, then you can continue. That's kind of our motto. Some people might look at that and go, well, what does that have to do with anything? A lot. It's really a big part of the community program. I do want to read this, by the way, before we do our greeting, because I mentioned something similar to this before, and we have the opportunity to read it here from Rabbeinu Bachya. This is a commentary from Rabbeinu Bachya about tithing. I just wanted to encourage you with this. From the Midrash, it says the repetition of the word aser teser, tithe, your tithe, is a veiled warning. If you do not give your tithes, you will become impoverished, rather than remaining more wealthy by withholding the amount in question. The wording also contains a hint that people who travel, this is just talking about business people, should donate 10% of their profits to the people who are toiling in Torah. In other words, giving your tithe to support the Torah community service. But we'll be talking about community in general. And Rabbi Weiss has some interesting insights to bring down a perspective of community, what it means, why we're in community. We'll talk about some practical aspects. And I'll get some of your take as well, from your perspective and your perspective as a member of the community. And what do you see as your responsibility? And how does this thought process differ from maybe other religious communities in which you found yourself involved? But before we do all of that, let's say good morning to everybody, since we're in community, and welcome you to the program. Good morning, Hepzibah, glad you're here. Good morning, Greg. Guten Tag. Good morning, Samuel. Boker Tov. Good morning, Milka and little Zara. Bonjour. Good morning, Sergio and Brenda and Lantern Signals. And Yitzhak, Boker Tov to you. By the way, quick question here. How many families do we have in Las Cruces, Nuevo Mexico? Is it 3 or 4? If you're in New Mexico, if you're in New Mexico in general, let me know. And if you're in Las Cruces particularly, let me know. I know Las Cruces, I just looked up the other day, Las Cruces is about 4 hours from Monahans. And I know we've got 2 or 3 families in Monahans. So I thought Las Cruces would be a little bit closer, but I was unfortunately wrong. Good morning, Donna. Good morning, Gingrich. Good morning to Gianna. Good morning, Miriam. Peaches, who's formerly from Georgia. Good morning to you. Good morning to Yosef and Leslie. Good morning, Jacqueline Keys and Jubilee. Joshua, Boker Tov to you. Good morning to Keturah and Anna. Good morning. Who else do we have this morning? Beer to Pray, Boker Tov. Good morning, Ahava. And Sarah Merritt. Hope you and Shannon are doing great. Good morning to Jatwisi Metwa Letu. Good morning, Brenda. That's good morning, Brenda. Good morning, Kim. And Ariela Rafaela, good morning to you. Let's see. Deva, good morning. Good morning, Cheryl, Boker Tov. Z-Ray, Boker Tov to you. Obi-Wan Kenobi, good to see you this morning. Let's see. Good morning, Ami. Good to see you this morning. All right, Las Cruces, Nuevo Mexico. Glad you're here. Cheryl is in New Mexico, up by 4 Corners. You're on the other side of the state. Good morning, Hannah. We need everybody to move to the same place. I got an idea. How about Fort Worth? But let's look at the idea of community. We talked about community is when everybody is doing the same things together. A lot of people have different idea of community. You know, there's diversity as our strength. Actually, it's not. As it turns out, diversity is not our strength. That is actually wrong. What is our strength is when we are all in unity. Imagine if you were on a ship, a boat, let's put it that way. And it's a boat with oars. What happens if everybody is rowing in different directions? What happens? Good morning, Shoshana from Cherokee Nation. Well, a couple of things could possibly happen. I've been in this situation before. if everybody's rowing in different directions, it's possible that you don't go anywhere. That's one possibility. The other possibility is that you go in the wrong direction. And a very likely possibility is that the boat will capsize. You will turn over. That's right. Beard is praise. Unity is strength. Diversity is division. That is 100% true. So when it comes to community, as Leah aptly put on the chat a couple days ago or yesterday, whenever it was, unity, that is the word community. It is important that we're all together, all doing the same things together. Now, within the greater Jewish world, there is diversity. There are, and not everybody is Judaism is not a monolithic religion. And by Judaism, I'm talking here about Orthodox Judaism. I don't really count Reform or even conservative for that matter, because those really aren't Judaisms, particularly Reform. But I'm talking here about Orthodoxy. There are various communities within the greater community of Judaism. There's various sects of Orthodoxy, some Hasidic, some not, and so forth and so on. Some Sephardic, some Ashkenazi. But I'm talking here about within that particular sect. There is a unity of the way in which we do things. And it doesn't matter if you belong to Breslev. It doesn't matter if you live in Israel or if you live in South Africa. You are going to follow the halacha of Breslev. The same thing is true of Chabad. The same thing is true of Aish. The same thing is true of Haredi. The same thing is true of really it doesn't matter where you are. You're going to follow that custom, that minhag. You're going to have that hashkafa. You're going to follow that halacha. And so it should be in our community. This is more challenging for us, however, because a lot of people in our community come from the non-Jewish world. And the non-Jewish world, especially the religious non-Jewish world, is very, very, very Lone Ranger. It's very independent. As we say in Spanish, independento. Very much so. And so it's challenging for people to everybody just wants to do their own thing. And they've been kind of taught in a roundabout. No one's ever said it like this, but it's true. They've said that by doing different things together, we're in unity, which is literally the opposite of unity. It's division. But that's what people have been led to believe. Everybody wants to do their own thing. This is this is fundamental because that's why people don't want rules, as you will, even if they come from God. But we need to be doing the same things together. This is why it's important that we all have the same halakha for hand washing, for instance. We have the same halakha for the way in which we perform the Erev Shabbat. I mentioned yesterday not getting lost in needless stringencies. Okay. I'm talking here about stringencies, the stringency of a mitzvah, not a mitzvah itself, but the stringency of a mitzvah. Most stringencies are needless. In my experience, most stringencies are nothing more than self-aggrandizement. It's nothing more than the person just trying to say, I'm more holy. Let me give you an example. My wife and I, whenever we travel to Israel, we travel on El Al. We try to anyway. And I like El Al for a couple different reasons. But one of the reasons I like it is because their galley is completely kosher. I don't have to worry about anything that comes out of the galley. The wine, by the way, is also kosher. It's not true on other airlines. If you fly on another airline, you need to, if they serve meals for wherever you're going, you're going to need to apply for kosher meals, and that's not a problem. You can do that on most other airlines. But the nice thing about El Al is that the plated meals are fully kosher. So I was making a schedule one time with El Al, buying a ticket, I should say, and the lady asked me if I wanted the regular meal or do I want le mechadrin. And I said, Leha Madrin. Well, I knew what Leha Madrin means. Leha Madrin means the most strictest kosher. And I said, what's the difference? And so she said, well, the kosher, the regular meal comes plated and everything. Leha Madrin comes packaged like, it's all microwaved package. And I said, well, so your galley's fully kosher, right? They said, oh, yeah, certified by the chief rabbi of Israel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I was confused. I said, okay, well, why would I want Leha Madrina? I'm trying to figure out, like, what am I missing here? And she says, I don't know. She's Israeli, of course. She says, I don't know. Some Jews just want more strict kosher. They don't want people touching their food or whatever. I don't know. And my response to that was, that's kind of dumb. I mean, the women and men, for that matter, who work in the galley, they're Jews. I don't have to worry about that. They're Israeli. So so what I found out was it's kind of like, you want kosher, but you want it to be like kosher. It's like it said in a book one time I was reading. I think it was Going Kosher in 30 Days. I think maybe that book, maybe another one. But it says in there that no matter how kosher your kitchen is, there is a Jew somewhere who won't eat there. That's what I'm talking about by needless stringencies. Something else, like for instance, Jewish men in Lapid, we don't wear peyot. You shouldn't either if you're a Jewish man. If you're growing peyot or wearing peyot, why are you doing that? No one else does. It's like being a Marine but having long hair. Nobody else has long hair. Why do you have long hair? So we need to be doing the same thing together. That's unity. That's community. Something else about community is the personal responsibility to the community. There are people, unfortunately, who, are absent from the community most of the year, but they want everything to be right there for them whenever they decide that it's convenient for them to join the service. Hey, look, I've been gone for 6 months and I didn't tell anybody where I've been gone to or why. I just disappeared and now I'm back and I'm glad y'all are here. Well, what if we weren't here? What if the rabbi just disappeared mysteriously for like a month? Didn't tell anybody. I just didn't show up. Maybe you showed up for shul and I wasn't there. Where's Rabbi? We don't know. No one's ever. Daniel, where's the rabbi? I don't know. Zakins, where's the rabbi? I don't know. What if Daniel didn't show up? Where's the Hazan? I don't know. What if you showed up and the building was locked? Because the leadership decided, we're just going to be gone. You see what I mean? So it's kind of like you expect, and I say you, I'm talking euphemistically. I'm not necessarily this morning talking to you out there. I'm talking to the yous. But sometimes it's true, right? We're like, well, I need you to be faithful. I need you to be consistent so that whenever it's convenient for me, I'll show up. That's how a lot of people think about community. And all I'm saying is we might want to rethink that, because maybe by you not showing up decreases the odds that there'll be some place to show up to. Maybe by you not showing up and being a faithful member, could possibly have a detrimental effect so that when you show up, there isn't a place to come to. I mean, if you're aboard the ship and you're not helping, the ship, might sink if you're not helping. It's possible. So I just think that we have to think about this. And what I talked about, well, maybe the rabbi won't show up, or maybe the Hazan won't show up, or maybe Keturah doesn't show up, or maybe Kara doesn't show up, and there's nothing on the screen. I don't know how to run that computer back there. I guess I could figure it out, but it wouldn't happen that morning. What I'm talking about there is a mindset. We expect everything to be, where's everybody? They need to be here. Be sure to be here so that when I finally get around to thinking that, all those other things, I don't have to do them today and I'll come today. That, we expect it to be there. But what is our responsibility as a communal member? What is our responsibility to make sure that if I don't show up, that's a problem? Okay, so you might say to yourself this morning, well, I don't have a responsibility. I don't have a role. If I don't show up, it doesn't matter. And now that is also a problem. Why don't you have a responsibility? Why isn't there something that you do? Huh. Why? Why don't you have a role that you fill? You ever thought about that? It's something else to consider, right? If you come up to the shul and whether you're there or not there, it doesn't matter. And it does matter, by the way. I just want to tell you that your presence itself matters a great deal. I've talked about that on the Shabbat Drash. It matters greatly. But beyond that, what if you say, well, I don't really have a role or responsibility? Why not? Why aren't you a greeter? Why aren't you part of security? Why aren't you a part of hospitality? Why aren't you a part of children's ministry? Or why aren't you a part of the audio visual ministry or something like that? I'm just saying, like, this is, in other words, another aspect of community is finding your place in the community. And that really is up to you. We have, communication is a two-way street, they say, right? So, well, no one's reached out to me. Have you reached out to us? I'm just, like, you never call me. Have you called me? No, I was waiting for you to call me. Oh, you see what I'm saying? So I know that, when I talk like this, sometimes I feel like, might potentially be stepping on people's toes, and it's not my intention. My intention is just to talk to us about kind of, looking at community more from what can I bring to the table as opposed to what the community can do for me. And by the way, there's a balance there because, the community does need to offer something to you, of course, obviously. And I will also tell you that what you put in the community will be what you get out of it. That's been my experience, not just in this type of community, but in other types of communities I've been a part of that are more of a secular vein. What you put into it will be what you get out of it. It's an investment. If you go to some type of club or community or group and you just show up with the idea that, hey, I'm here to see what you can do for me, you'll never be happy. It doesn't work that way because it's kind of like the government. The government has no money if you don't give it. Everybody says, well, I want the government to pay for that. The government pays for nothing. All the government does is take your money and reallocate it to somebody else. They pay for nothing. So you're going to get out of your government what you put into it because it doesn't magically make money. It's the same thing with a corporation, by the way. I want the corporation to pay taxes. That's you, chief. I want McDonald's to pay more taxes. I don't want McDonald's to pay their workers more money. That's you. When you go to buy the burger, which we don't buy burgers at McDonald's because they're not kosher. I get it. This is just an analogy. When you go to buy the burger and the burger is now $20, that's meeting your demand for them to pay more money. Because they don't pay money. You pay money. Okay. The corporation doesn't pay money. Did you don't know that? I demand that Walmart pay their workers more money. Fine. That's going to cause your toothpaste to go up. They're not paying the money to the workers. You're paying the money to the workers. That's why customer service in the United States is so great. Because the people who are smart know that you, the customer, are the one paying them, not the company. The company is simply taking your money and reallocating it to them. You say, well, they can make less profits. Okay. That only goes so far. Does this make sense, what I'm saying to you today? So you only get out of the community what you put into it, and you have a responsibility to the community. And this is hard to teach. As I have said, I should say, many, many times, but it's important and we'll be happier. You as an active participant in the community, you will be infinitely happier in life. It's satisfying. It's fulfilling to know that you had a role to play, that you are actively involved. It's meaningful. And as I said, you might be sitting out there thinking to yourself, well, I don't really have an active role in the community necessarily. I don't, I'm not, like that. Well, but you can be. You can find your place, and we can help you, and we can talk to you about that, like you'd like to be a greeter or something like that. I'm just saying we can help you find a place. And I want to emphasize that your presence, your literal presence, your physical presence is crucial. Crucial. Now, this applies to those who are online as well, because, you might be watching the service like today, this teaching, or you're watching the drosh, and people who jump online who are brand new, they look and say, oh my gosh, like today, there's 72 people watching. That's pretty good for a weekday morning. It's not bad. But maybe also on Shabbat, they see, look, 100 people are watching, 120. We've had as many as, I think, 150 or something, maybe at some point. I don't know. So therefore, your online presence is equally crucial and equally inspiring. Okay. And when you're here physically, it's also inspiring. Now, for those of you who are online, let's test this theory. When you're online and you're watching the service and the camera pans out and you see a full sanctuary, doesn't that excite you? Don't you go, wow, look at the place is full today? Jews are not assaulting Christians in Israel, Chief. Whoever Michael 1976 is. I don't know what propaganda you're listening to, but that's not true. Jews don't assault Christians in Israel. I've been to Israel many times. I've never seen a Christian assaulted. It's all bogus. But yeah, you love it, right, Sergio? You see the sanctuary full and you're like, yay, and you're inspired. You're encouraged. What happens when the camera pans out and there's hardly anybody there? That, unfortunately, that happens. It's kind of a downer, isn't it? Kind of a bummer. You're like, man, where is everybody? Ugh. It is. I will tell you from my perspective, when there's a lot of people there, man, it's easy for me to give a drosh. It's like, man, this is great. I'm walking on sunshine. Got my blue suede shoes on. And when the house is empty, it's like a big downer. It's like, man, it's really a bummer. It's a lot more mentally and emotionally challenging. So therefore, your presence is crucial. And when you HCOs come in from time to time and you swell our numbers with your presence, that's amazing. And it's kind of a buzzkill the next week when you're not there. But I'm just saying that your physical presence is crucial and wonderful. And when you're not there, it's detrimental. Isn't it true? Yeah, all of y'all are agreeing with me. When you see everybody online, it's exciting. Of course it is. And here's the problem. A lot of times when you're just like, where is everybody? That's a good question. Where are they? I will also tell you, by the way, that this issue of community is not in any way, shape, or form. It's not something with which we struggle. In other words, what I'm trying to say is it's not unique to us. Like, golly, what's wrong with us? This is something that I have been in many, many pastoral type organizations over the last 3 decades. And I will tell you that every leader struggles with this. And I will also tell you that there is kind of a phenomenon that if we have a low week, I promise you everybody else has had a low week. It's almost as if people all don't go to their various congregations together. It's like it's planned. It's a phenomenon. I just want to throw that out there. Okay. Now, having said that, we don't have to be part of that statistic as a community. We don't have to do that. I want you to understand that your presence in the community, whether it's online or in person, is vital. Now, if you're local, you should never be online, unless, of course, you're sick or you're on vacation or something like that. But you should never be watching the service online from like 20 minutes away. What are you talking about? Your physical presence is crucial. But I just wanted to say that everybody's presence is crucial. Okay. Everybody's presence is crucial. Everybody's involvement is crucial. And you are an important member of the community. And that's really what I wanted to communicate to you. Don't think for a minute that your presence is not vital. It is. And there are people who, we see sporadically, and I hate that. I generally like everybody. I want everybody to be here all the time. Okay. And you should come. And some of you should move here. I talk about moving here a lot. And it's sincere. Your physical presence is crucial and so needed. So here's some thoughts here by Rabbi Wise. Okay. Thank you, Michael, for standing with Israel. Appreciate that. So the commentaries notice seeming discrepancy in the pasuk. It begins in the singular tense with the word re'eh, see, it's like in the singular, and then continues with the plural lifnechem. That is to mean, what is this coming to teach us? See, okay. So it says, one must view himself as if his merits and faults were equally balanced. If he performs even one mitzvah, he's fortunate since he tips the scales towards the side of merit. If he transgressions even one sin, it's pitiful since he tips the scales towards the side of guilt. As the pasuk states, but a single robe can ruin a great deal of good. This is from Ecclesiastes 9:18. Rabbi Eliezer, son of Rabbi Shimon, said that the world is judged by the majority of its inhabitants, and the individual is judged by the majority of his deeds. Therefore, if he performs even one mitzvah, he's fortunate since he tips the scales towards the merit for himself and for the entire world. If he transgressions even one sin, he is pitiful since he tips the scales towards guilt for himself and for the entire world. So this is with Judaism. The reason why in Judaism, in our Siddur, the reason why so many of the prayers are we and us, and our, we, us, and our, very infrequently are the prayers I and me and mine. It's usually in the plural, as if even we're praying alone, we're praying as if we're part of the community. That's because in the Jewish mind, we are part of the community. And therefore, our actions, our prayers, our actions have an effect on the community. This is why I mentioned, growing peyote. Nobody else has peyote. So, or doing some other halakha, in contrast to the community. It's detrimental because that's not unity. But you see, your actions have an effect, positive or negative, on the community. You're not an island unto yourself. Are you an individual? Of course you are. We're not robots, but at the same time, we're part of a community. Okay. Moshe Rabbeinu warned each individual that the blessings and the curses of the entire community depend on him. Before every deed, we must consider how we will thereby influence the community as a whole. When a person sins publicly, others will follow his example. We talked about this yesterday with the stringency concept, right? This what I'm telling you, by the way, comes out of experience. You could call it trial and error. Hey, let me give you here's a subtle example. Something that happened one time. So we all ceremonially wash our hands in a particular way. Let's just call him Joe. Joe comes along and he washes his hands a different way, in a different method. Why? Well, because he was watching some rabbi's video of some other community somewhere, and he saw it done that way, and the rabbi explained why it was superior to do it that way. and more holy or whatever. And so other people observe Joe ceremonially washing his hands in this unique way. And like, Joe, why are you doing it that way? Well, I watched Rabbi Nincompoop and he showed me how to do this and it was amazing. And he said, it's the elevated way. Oh, the elevated way. Ah, more spiritual. Ah, I want to be more spiritual. I like tacos. And they start doing it Joe's way, but not the rabbi's way, not the community's way, but Rabbi Nincompoop's way. And next thing you know, Joe invites people over to his house and he starts teaching other things that Rabbi Nincompoop is teaching. And there you go. Next thing you know, you have a whole clique. Maybe it's 3 people. Maybe it's 4. Maybe it's 20. You have a clique of people that are now doing different other things. Maybe they're growing peyote. Maybe they're doing Erev a little bit differently than everybody else is doing it. And now what do you have? You have disunity. Okay? Disunity. That's the problem. And that's why it's crucial not to deviate from the halakha and not to include these needless stringencies. Well, I know that we do this with respect to kosher, but I am more stringent in that area and I do this. That's very dangerous territory because we have the potential to lead people astray. Something else that Joe does. Now, see, Joe's, by the way, I'm not suggesting that when Joe washes his hands that in that manner, that he's necessarily being nefarious. Not necessarily. He's just, saw it done that way. It meant something to him, and now he wants to do it that way. And he's not trying to lead a rebellion. It doesn't start out that way. Okay. But that's how it ends up. Because it kind of gives this message, it creates in the observer's mind, well, if that's the more spiritual way of doing it, then why aren't we all doing it that way? Why hasn't Rabbi told us to do it that way? Rabbi must not be spiritual. I need to go learn from Rabbi Nincompoop because Rabbi obviously doesn't know what he's doing because he's doing it. Now it becomes the wrong way. You see, it's very subtle how this happens, but I've seen it happen many times. And it's all because we start focusing on the wrong things. We all decide, or one person decides that rowing in the same direction is for them boring and they want to row backwards. And then somebody else decides they want to row backwards too because they respect Joe and they think that he knows something that they don't know. And next thing you know, we got a bunch of people rowing in one direction, a bunch of people rowing in the opposite direction, and we're either going nowhere or being flipped over. And that's the problem. Okay. This is an interesting insight here. It's talking about here how one Jew and their actions can negatively impact the entire community. Okay. Leon Trotsky studied in a Torah school in his youth, but eventually cast off the yoke of Torah observance and caused immeasurable damage to Klal Israel when he became one of the prime leaders of the Bolshevik Revolution, which of course led to communistic Russia. And as a result, millions of Jews were torn away from Torah because of the result of communism. One Jew involved himself in this revolution. And look how many millions of Jews that he negatively impacted. So it says, it goes on to say here, our sages tell us that the wise man can see the outcome of his deeds. One must consider his every action to determine how it will influence the community around him, for better or for worse. You should ask yourself, if I don't attend shul today, how will that affect the community? Will it be good for the community or bad for the community? The answer is bad. So it says here, one must consider his actions. Will it be better for the community or for worse? This is the meaning of the pasuk. See, singular, I present before you, plural, today a blessing and a curse. The individual must realize that the blessings and curses of the community depend upon him. This, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't hear me say anything today, hear me say this, that whether or not our community is blessed or cursed depends upon you. You're the linchpin. You are the linchpin. You are. Whether or not it's a good community or a bad community is you, up to you. And a lot of people don't think that way. Okay? A lot of times you say, well, there's something missing in the community. It's probably you and your involvement. It says we can further explain that each individual must perform his share in tending to the needs of the community. We must be sensitive to the needs of our fellows and try to help them carry their burdens. As the Midrash states, through justice, a king establishes land, but a man of teramos, graft, traps it down. The king of the Torah, HaShem, maintains the earth with the justice he metes out, but the man of terumos destroys it. If a person acts like the teruma tithe, which is left alone in the corner of the house until the Kohen comes to claim it, saying, why should I trouble myself with the burdens of the community? Why should I get involved in their disputes? Why should I heed the voices? I'll simply seek peace for myself. In other words, I just want it to be all about me. I'll show up to the synagogue when it's convenient for me, when I don't have something else going on. Such a person destroys the world, it says. This comes from Midrash Tanchuma, Mishpatim 2. One must not shirk his responsibility to assist the community with its burdens. Yeah, we need all hands on deck every single week, every single day. The burden is to be shared. You know, we need people standing at the door. We need people helping in the hover hall. We need people helping with children's ministry. We need people helping in the back with audio visual. If he seeks only peace and quiet for himself and does not wish to involve himself in the difficulties of others, he destroys the world. The Midrash illustrates this point with the following incident. As Rav Asi neared death, his nephew visited him and found him crying. Rebbe, he said, why are you crying? Are there Torah teachings that you did not learn or teach? Here your student sits before you. Teach me your acts of kindness and I'll perform them. Above all your virtues, you always refrain from passing judgment. You never sought to wield authority over the community. My son, for this very reason I cry, said the rabbi. Perhaps I will be forced to give an account for why I was not so involved in serving the community as a judge. Perhaps I will be held to account for having failed to uphold my responsibility to the community. Before Yaakov Avinu died, he blessed his son Yissachar with the pasuk. He saw tranquility that was good, and he bent his shoulder to bear the burden. Sforno explains that Yissachar, who exemplified Torah study, bore two burdens, the burden of Torah study and the burden of the community. See, is the community a burden to you? Now, I don't mean burden in a negative sense. But what I mean is, do you feel the responsibility of the community? Do you feel the responsibility of the community? It would be easy for me to say I do because I'm the rabbi. I am literally responsible for the community in every way. And not the least of which is the property itself, the physical property. But do you feel the burden of the community? Do you wake up with a sense of what am I doing for Lapid Judaism today that affects it either positively or negatively? You say, well, Rabbi, who am I? Yeah, you're important. What do you mean, who are you? Can the hand say to the another organ, what value do you have? I mean, look, we look at our bodies and we get concerned if we have a little mole that looks dangerous, right? So it says, from here we learn that the Torah scholars and the Godeli Yisrael who bear the yoke of Torah are the ones ultimately responsible for the burden of the community. This too is the meaning of the pasuk. See, singularly, I present before you, plural, today a blessing and a curse. Each individual, and especially the Torah scholars, must feel himself personally responsible for the welfare of the community as a whole. That's the Jewish idea of community, that you are personally responsible, that you have a personal role to play, and that you are vital. Ask not what your synagogue can do for you, but what you can do for your synagogue. End of our Aliyah today. Thank you so much for being a part of the program. Please like this video, share it with all of your friends, and most importantly, may today be for you a day of good news and good fortune and great and wonderful blessing. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.